My teacher yanked me down the hallway and slammed my 7-year-old body on a hard wooden bench. I was so afraid. My heart was beating rapidly. My hands were so sweaty that as I tried to hold on to the bench, they kept slipping. My legs were rocking back and forth, but because I was so small, my feet didn't touch the floor. All I wanted was my daddy. I just needed my daddy to be there, and I knew he was on his way. I knew he was coming, and as I looked down the hallway, all I could see was chalk dust. And my heart dropped because I could hear them. I could hear the teacher and the counselor and the principal talking about me. They were trying to figure out what to do with me. They were talking about suspensions and expulsions and even putting me in special education. And then I heard them talk about my family. They said they just didn't care about me, and that wasn't true. That's not true at all. And then they started using words like at risk, culturally deprived. And I didn't know what those words meant, but they didn't sound right, and they didn't sound good. And there I am, a 7-year-old, terrified, listening to this. But now that I'm an adult, I know what those words mean. But they've been replaced today by terms like toxic stress, trauma, and adverse childhood experiences. Now, they have a way of measuring toxic stress and trauma, and that is done by using a questionnaire called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Questionnaire. And on this questionnaire are 10 questions, and they're in the category of abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. But every single question on that inventory, on that questionnaire, is grounded in the child's home and family. Of those 10 questions, I would like to highlight 3 of them. And one of them asked, was there anyone in your home, a family member or other adult, who hit you, kicked you, beat you, or harmed you in any way? And my answer to that is no. No, not at home, but it happened at school. I was paddled regularly. I was told to bend over, hold on to the seat of a chair, and the principal or assistant principal would take a wooden stick and whack me right across my behind. And when they really wanted to hurt me, they would use the paddle with the holes in it. And that paddle would leave me bruised and hurt so much that it was hard to sit still for the next few days. Did you know that there are 19 states in this country that still allow corporal punishment in public schools? And there are 48 states that allow it in private schools. Just imagine if that administrator left the building, picked up a stick, and hit a child outside of the school building, they'd be charged with assault. But here, right now, today, it's still legal. Let's look at another question on the inventory. It said, in your home, did a family member or another adult put you down, insult you, or make you feel bad about yourself? That did not happen in my home. In my home, I was elevated. But it happened at school. Teachers actually told me that I would be dead or in jail before I turned 18, that I would never amount to anything. And even though I was smart, I was put down for being a know-it-all or a Miss Smarty Pants. You remember when I said they were thinking about putting me in special education? During that time, they had to give you an IQ test. And my IQ was off the chart. So they could not put me in special ed. They ended up skipping me a grade. So I went from 2nd grade to 4th grade. But if that would have happened today, I probably would have ended up in special ed, because African American children are overrepresented in special ed, especially in the category of behavioral disorders and intellectual ability. Let's choose another question. The question said, was there no one in your home who cared about you or made you feel special? Everybody in my home cared about me and made me feel special. I was adored at home. My intellect and my behavior was praised at home. I was told I was smart and I could do anything. So when you look at these questions that are so grounded in home and family, do we really believe that the home is the only place that children experience trauma? I experienced my trauma at school on 3 questions. And the way we measure trauma is that if you have answered yes to 4 or more questions, your lifetime outcomes are diminished. You're more likely to engage in risky behaviors. You're more likely to have poor health outcomes and much more likely to experience an early death. School was the source of my trauma. And when a child's spirit is murdered at school, where does their soul go to heal? Dr. Patina Love challenges us with that question. Where does the child's soul go to heal? I spent 7 hours a day at school, and I went home to heal. And my family would build me up every night just to send me back to school, the source of my trauma, every day. So this isn't saying that trauma is not experienced in the home. Of course it is. But that is an opportunity for schools to become the healing spaces. So what can we do about this? First, we have to stop blaming children and families. And we have to understand trauma. We have to understand our own trauma and our own trauma triggers. We also have to be aware of the cultural lens that we bring everywhere we go, and recognize that everyone does not have the same cultural lens. We have to be aware of implicit bias. We all have it. We didn't ask for it, and we don't want it, but it's there. And then we can implement trauma-informed practices. And what we've learned about trauma-informed practices is that it challenges us not to ask the child what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. But then we can go a bit further. We can then begin to practice and implement healing-centered practices. And those practices take us from what's wrong with you to what happened to you to what is right with you. It understands that trauma and resilience is a collective experience, and it focuses on the healing by tapping in to the inner strength that every child and family has. And then we can take a really good look at ourselves, and we can ask ourselves what we can do. This overused statement, "it takes a village to raise a child," is absolutely true. But we have to recognize that schools are a critical part of that village. And when we do it right, we can ensure that every child can learn, grow, heal, and succeed. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.